This is the AAR for the Denny School Road Fire that was on May 4th, 2022. Incident was at 32500 Denny School Road. Initial calls. Is that better? Okay. Initial calls were for a structure on fire, but was in the vicinity of Denny School and Highway 34. Time of call received was 10:41:13, and the first dispatch was 10:41:26. First en route was 10:41:59, which I believe was BC 31. Shortly thereafter, truck 31 was en route. First to arrive on scene was at 10:46:31, and that was truck 31.
So truck 31 was initially dispatched to a lift assist. We were en route to a lift assist. When the first alarm tones went off, we stopped, changed into fire gear from the lift assist, and then went en route to the fire. Initially, as we were driving down Oak Street, we could see the column of smoke coming up, so we knew we had a working structure fire of some type. Arriving on scene, we drove past the structure to get a good three-sided look at it and could see heavy fire involvement on the alpha side of the structure as we went around the corner, and could see from the doorway, there's kind of an indentation. The whole side of the building was involved in flames. Tucker was my firefighter. As soon as we stopped, gave initial size up, he jumped out, grabbed our pre-connect. The homeowner grabbed Tucker, told him that everybody was out of the structure at that point in time, that he was the only person in there. There were cats that were still in the building, but all the people were out. So we knew it was just a structure we were going after at that point. There was no people inside. Tucker and I grabbed the hose. Tucker did initial knockdown of the exterior of the structure, was able to get that knocked down pretty quick. Soon as we had the medic crew on scene, medic 31 was our backup, and they got the second line pulled. Tucker and I went inside. Visibility was almost zero. Couldn't see more than a foot in front of your face. No heat and just lots of smoke. We went in, we're trying to locate the seat of the fire. We knew from we were located on the exterior that it had to be on that side. We were expecting flames to be above us in the roof, going into the roof space in the attic area. So we're going to try and pull some ceiling. We made it inside. We're not having any luck accessing the ceiling. We realized there were very high ceilings inside. That's when BC 31 then called for us to back out. They were going to try and get some roof ventilation so we could get some visibility. Once they accessed the roof and cut holes in the roof, once that was clear, then we re-entered the structure, and visibility had improved dramatically. We had probably 5 or 6 feet of visibility within a minute or so after they cut that access hole. We went back in, and still we're having a difficult time even accessing the ceiling. They were 14-foot ceilings, so that made our pulling the ceiling extremely difficult. We were having a hard time reaching, even as tall as Tucker is with the long pike pole. He was holding it just at the very end and just barely able to poke a hole in the ceiling. So we did finally get some water up in there, help slow it down some. By then we were low on air, and we came back out, and there was a couple of cycles of people going back through it at that point, and then just kind of fighting the fire from the roof and from underneath. It was just kind of a slow progression once the main body was knocked down.
So truck 31 arrived at 10:46:31, which is about 5 minutes after initial dispatch. Coming down Highway 34, because that's the route I chose just because I was on at HQ. I could see that we had a header starting. I hit 34 and Denny School. I arrived at 10:47:06 after truck 31 had arrived. Did kind of a pass by, figure out where I want to post it up on Sand Ridge and Denny School, and established command post there and established command. And that was at 10:47:06. By the time I had got all my gear on, truck 31 had already pulled an 1 3/4 to the alpha side, because alpha was towards me of the structure. During that time, I'd also heard 303 and 302 approaching, and I assigned them to traffic control right away, just due to the busy road that we were on. I had also asked for law enforcement that time as well to help with traffic control, so we could get it diverted at certain pinch points. After I made contact with the homeowner and was attempting to do my 360, I was halted on the Bravo side of my 360 because of a fence, and I know there was at least 2, but there was a couple of mean dogs that came after me. So at that time, I'd kind of face to face with Mark. Let's get this knocked down and let's start looking at the interior. I'd made myself or got around to the Delta side, could see that we still had fence that we were going to have to cut through or cut a lock to be able to get to that back side, but I could see enough that I wasn't concerned of anything back there. At that time, I was looking at the attic space and the color of the smoke and everything that was pushing out. I did seen engine 34 approaching scene, and I did a face-to-face with Lieutenant Maynard. And my orders for him was to do vertical ventilation, get up on the roof and let's vent this thing and get it opened up. About that time, I think 308 arrived, and I assigned him as my safety officer. I also had hit for a second alarm to get other incoming units coming. At that time, I knew I was down to tender, supposedly down to tender, so I'd already called for a water tender from Tangent when I first arrived and gave my size up, so I had water coming right away. But just looking at the building and the possibilities and what I had on scene, it was a no-brainer to go to a second alarm right away. Let's see, what did we do? As soon as Maynard and Monzi were able to access the roof, I had called truck 31 and had them withdraw from the building, let them know what was going on. As soon as they had withdrawn from the building, they got the hole cut, punched through, and fire conditions changed dramatically, especially on the inside of the building. Like Mark said, just because of the high ceilings, we weren't able to do a lot from the bottom. But because of the way the roof was, being an old school building, there was a lot of flat roof space around. And so engine 34 went on the Bravo side and made a secondary cut to help kind of open it up there too, to look into some flat roof that we had, but also was able to open it up enough to where we could actually do work from the attic or do work from the roof with hose lines and put the fire out, because we weren't going to be able to do anything from the ground. And that seemed to work really well. The lower portions in the add-on of the Bravo side, those were false ceilings, and I believe there was 2 false ceilings in there. There was the lowered one, and then there was another one above it. Nothing traveled down in there. Nothing made it into the Charlie side of the building. It was all contained to the attic space. And if you look at Denny School, because it was an old school building, you can see 2 different roof lines. There's a roof line where we had the main fire. It went into a flat roof, and then it was basically a twin of the other one. It went up and nothing made it past that flat roof portion. And as soon as we were able to open up the roof, like I said, fire conditions changed, smoke, everything went the way we wanted it to go. On the second alarm assignments, we did have truck from Albany en route. I canceled them as soon as I heard Albany pop their structure fire, and they had all their boxes out as well. So canceled them, but luckily it was a bogus fire for them, and they came back and helped us out. Cody, you want to touch on?
All right. So as mentioned, I was on engine 34 with Lieutenant Maynard. We could actually see the fire as we pulled out onto the apron. We were swing crew, so we jumped over onto the engine. We could see the header pulling out on the apron at station 34. Started heading out that way, listened to the radio traffic, heard truck 31 go offensive attack. So we were, prepared to get an assignment when we rolled in. Pulled up and nosed into the truck. We weren't sure if I was going to end up supplying them with water. And then Maynard went face to face with Kibble, came back and said that we were vertically ventilating, and he went and grabbed the ladder, and I ran around. Jay had already pulled the saw out, so I grabbed that and the trash hook, and we ended up going up the roof on will be the Delta side of the roof. I sounded my way up to the peak, knocked a vent off, and then sounded around onto the Charlie side of the roof. We cut a hole right at the peak line, just underneath the vents. There was an extra truss we found later, so our first section of the louver didn't louver because I had split 2 trusses, but the second louvered just fine. And as we were working on trying to figure out why the first section wasn't louvering, all the smoke ignited, and we just backed off onto the flat roof because the fire was contained to that attic and the roof was sound. We could see the smoke color change and the fire get knocked down as the truck went back interior and started putting water on, and then got a hold of command and asked if they wanted us to cut an additional hole off of the Bravo side of the roof. So we went on to the much larger flat roof section, sounded up and cut it was a little bit smaller hole just based on roof size, but a secondary hole. And then with that one, it didn't light off right away. And Lieutenant Maynard attempted, even with the big long trash hook that we had, attempted to reach down and punch through the ceiling. But the ceiling material was, I believe, lap. Yeah, lap. And so he just ended up bouncing off of that. And we, combination of coming at it from underneath and up above, finally managed to puncture through and get water onto there.
That's all we did. Russell, safety.
So I went en route from the MVBA building and arrived just while 303 was closing Denny School in Oak Street. Checked in with command, and that was at the same time that Engine 34 was also checking in with command and was assigned safety officer. And when the order's vertical ventilation was going across, I ended up assisting with ladder operations. And so once Cody and Lieutenant Maynard made it up to the roof line, the actual wind changed. And once they popped the hole, it actually closed off their egress from where their initial ladder was placed. And that was on the Alpha, kind of the corner on the Delta side, the Alpha Delta corner. And so myself and 302, we actually had to move their egress ladder down towards the Charlie Delta side initially. So we assisted with that. And then my other priority was the 2 dogs. And so assisting the homeowner and getting the dogs removed from the gated area on the Charlie side of the building. And so we ended up talking to the homeowner and helping her get the dogs out, but they were definitely anxious and they were not happy that we were there. After the dogs situation was taken care of, I helped another egress ladder on the Charlie side. I threw a ladder over there for Engine 34 as another escape route. And then throughout the incident, just being on scene, another set of eyes on that Charlie side. I think anything else, and utilities, and we secured utilities at the end of the incident.
Jason Adamson. I was on truck 31 as the engineer. So thing we learned is trucks don't work really well on rural water supply operations because 400 gallons goes really quick. So fortunately enough, the first in crews weren't really using that much water right away. So we didn't exactly run it. We didn't really run out of water because we had pump tender showed up pretty quick, laid out a tail, hooked up to them, and we were able to do nurse tending operations for the entire time without a problem. Just a lot of with that smaller tank, we just had this. I just was tied down to that panel, shifting back and forth to not dump any water on the ground once we started flowing a little bit more. But aside from that, it went really well. So
Anybody else? No. I think this fire went very well. I think with the combination crews that we had from our crew, we had company officer from another shift. We meshed very well and we were able to get job done and accomplished in a timely manner. It was a difficult fire just because of the high ceilings, but we adapted to that and were able to get to it and get it knocked down. And even though it seemed like it was only 2 hours, it was a longer duration just because of that, but time went by fast. The crews did an excellent job. Everybody there did an excellent job getting everything taken care of. Thank you.